exposure to Promas. If it's not, welcome back. If it is, well, welcome aboard. Promas has been around for over 20 years. It's actually debuted in 1989 along with The Simpsons and Bobby McFerrin's lovely Don't Worry, Be Happy. So we have been creating this program, updating it, improving it over many years through versions of DOS and now the latest version, version 12. It is a intuitive program. It's one of the strongest accounting programs that you can find out there. And most importantly, it's a program that allows you to have the most control over your database and your business because it's actually something that you install on your desktop computers, you network in your office, and if you so wish, you can go ahead and put it up in a cloud environment while still maintaining your database at your location. So if you lose cloud for any reason, you're still chugging away. Owners are still getting paid. Tenants are still being able to pay rent because we like that. And vendors are able to go out and fix faucets. With that, I'll go ahead and open up the basic program, version 12. We'll talk. I'm going to do mostly a 30,000 foot level, kind of high altitude. I will go into the weeds a little bit. If you have questions as we go along, ask if you can save them towards the end. I'll have a question and answer period, but I want to allow enough time so I can show everybody around real well. I like to start out by explaining that Promas is a very help-driven program, not only with the internal help menu and the very detailed explanations on most anything you would want to do inside Promas, but also on our website we have dozens and dozens of how-to documents. Some of them are the same as what we have here in Help. Some of them are in addition to, but most everything you would need to know is right in there. And of course, we've got our technical support staff, which have quite a bit of experience, and talking dozens of years combined with all of them. And we're open 9 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. for technical support Monday through Friday. So we can catch you folks on the West Coast. I think we have a few of those on the call here today. Promas is actually pretty easy to set up when you first start your business, whether you're changing over from another piece of software or if you're just starting new. It's very intuitive, and you're wondering how you start up your program and start up your company. You just type it in Help, and you have documents here about getting started and initializing your owner and property ledgers. Because of course, if you're changing mid-stride from program to program, you want to be able to get Promas to run seamlessly with what you were working with before. In fact, if you're considering changing your software mid-year, I would always suggest that a mid-year switch is better than first of year, because everybody knows January 1st is a very busy time of the year, or at least January 2nd. We're usually hung over January 1st. But we offer 3 different situations, 3 different ways that you can handle that switchover. And the most popular way is situation 3. So we walk you through a procedure. So at the end of the year, your owners are going to get 1 statement from Promas and 1 1099 from Promas. So don't worry about having to do this 1 statement from your other program, QuickBooks, Yardi, whatever it is, and 1 statement from us. We have the instructions in here, and of course, walking you through it by our tech staff to be able to help you out. When you do start with Promas, we'll set you up with orientation. Right now we have one-on-one orientation, which we're doing, and in addition to that, are providing additional webinars, recorded webinars, that will walk you through the process as well, so multiple people can watch them as they go, much like this webinar is today. Again, when you're setting up the program, there's basic setup functions. The demo program that some of you have downloaded is the same program that we would register you for your software needs. It's already loaded with basic account codes, bill codes, charge codes, and the like, anything you would possibly need in order to be able to run your business. But that doesn't mean that what we have is what you all that you need. For example, your account codes, your demonstration database comes with a practice demonstration database, which actually gets registered as your own for your company's business when we register you. And you'll see there's a host of account codes already listed, as well as, of course, your checking, your two basic accounts, your checking and escrow. So you have those set up already for you. But you can always add new. And as you'll see in all of the different profiles and different codings, there's always a way to add something new. Not every business is run the same. We allow our customers to work outside the box to do what they need to do so their owners are happy and they can keep owners on their roles and not give them over to ABC company next door. Also in your setup, not only your codes, but you start to see this categories field. Categories is nice in that you can set up a number of different alerts for yourself. For example, I'll set up one right now very simply to show you how that works. We have a category. We're going to call it Notify Owner. And I'm sure we got some folks out there that have the finicky owner that does not want to have anything repaired unless he or she knows about it. We're going to create it as a maintenance category. We're going to make it key on a work order. So whatever time we open a work order for a unit for an owner that gets tagged with this particular category, it's going to tell us, you got to call this owner. It's going to protect you. In fact, I created one of these categories weeks ago when one of our customers called up almost in tears that an owner had yelled at her for fixing a $25 faucet. We don't want that. So notify owner of all repairs. I'm going to go ahead and save that. We'll see how that works later. Your late fees, your management fees. Again, we have some canned scenarios in here. In mine, we have a 10%, 11%, 9%, a standard, a 7%. That may not suit your needs. You might be a 12% company fee based on owners or tenants' rent. You just create a new one. And in Promas, we also allow you to assess a dollar amount when that fee is vacant. You don't have to, you don't have to manually do that each month. Close that up real quick. Owner statements, tenant statements. Before we get that, real quick on profile lists, you have the ability to create lists, any number of lists that you want. For example, if you decide that you want to publish reports or print reports for a certain group of owners or tenants, not everybody, you can create lists. Say your slow pay tenants, these guys are always the ones that are getting late fees. You can make a list of tenants that are constantly slow pay, create a letter inside Promas, and then print them out for just those tenants, so you're not having to filter between not your good tenants, your bad tenants, but your early paying tenants, and your not so on-time tenants. We're also the only company that provides owner statements. When you set up your owner statements, you have a number of different options in order to satisfy what your owners are looking for. We have the basic statements, your audit, end of year, multi-unit owner, single unit owner, year to date. So when you go to set these up for the first time, you have a number of different options to use. What is the return address? What do you want to call it? What do you want to call your increase and decrease labels? Credit, debit, income, expense, it's up to you. And then different body styles and notifications that you can include in that. And we'll take a look at owner statements here in a bit so you can see how they look. How do you want your running balances to be kept? And the summary style. And underneath each one of those, you have a number of different options to choose from. And depending on what your needs are for your company, you can go ahead and do that. And we do have additional things that you put on. You can have a distribution reserve deficit. Basically, will tell your owners if they have a distribution reserve that they have set on their account or their ledger, and they've dipped below that, it'll tell them that they need to make a contribution. Also, we have the base reserve deficit if they have a base reserve. So it keeps your owners up to date on what they need to do to keep their ledger up to date for you and for Promas. That will show up before the body, and after the body you have different options. You can do lease expirations, which I like to do, balance summaries, lease summaries, security deposits, and then this is a nice addition. You can put unpaid payables and open work orders. You don't want to be surprised. Your owners don't want to be surprised, and you don't want to surprise your owners. When we look at the statements later, you'll see how repairs that need to be done are on these statements, and it allows your owners to be apprised of those things that are still hanging out there, including unpaid bills. And finally, on this side, before we move over to the profiles, you have your environment options and processing defaults. I have our environment options set up, so I show a backdrop, but you can always uncheck this if you want to just keep this window off to the side while you're doing other things. Some people need to have that black backdrop in the back, so they are focusing on just the program, and that's fine. You can change your color schemes however you want, and save those. And then when you're setting up your profiles, you set up your processing defaults. So when you're creating an owner's ledger or any of your ledgers, these are the standards that will be put in. Do you not have an 8.75? Maybe you have a 7% is your standard fee. Now choose 7%. This will handle 99% of all the folks that you put in, all the tenants under the tenant profiles that you have, but you can always one-off for that tenant, that vendor, that owner as you go along. So whatever you need to do, it's available. Again, very flexible. It's a lot of the implementation of the changes were done by our customers as they call in. They want something on there, and we work to implement it. So down the road, everybody will have it. Links will just give you some valuable tools to different links that we have all around the web and inside Promas. 1099 order form from our company, Promas Forms, a whole bunch of different links here. Big ones here is how-to PDF documents, links directly to our website, and how-to Promas Central. We'll talk about Promas Central a little bit and what that can do for you as we go along. And again, NARPM website. We've been with NARPM since 1995. Member in good standing, and definitely are going to continue to do so. So ask around about us. All right, we'll pop over to profiles real quick, the meat and potatoes. They are in the order that you would look at creating them. Now this is assuming that you would be putting in them manually. Some of you may opt for having your data transferred over from another program, and we do have an outside vendor that will accomplish that task for you. Brings over the profile information and beginning balances or ending balances from your old program to be able to put into this program, and we do that under our database utilities under File. Just taking a look at these real briefly. Your management group, not much to say about this. This is your company. So you would set up your property management group, basic information. You have the ability here to put in your zip code. If you're doing the non-foreign, it'll automatically populate with what it thinks where you should be. But you can always click on foreign and change your city and state to whatever you need. But it's a nice intuitive search there, so it's a shortcut for you. It'll give you where your posting table is, what type of accounting method, We do handle cash, accrual, and modified cash accounting. Anytime there's a transaction done, it performs in all three, but it will show you the results in only what you've chosen. And of course, your starting year. When are you starting your fiscal year? The categories, we'll look at that more when we get to the owners, but these are all the categories that I was talking about. In this case, there's only a welcome notes category under welcome, and there's not too much to do with that. You do have the documentation tab. All of your profiles have that, and whether it's your documents for your business, if you have a charter, if you have incorporation letters, you can go ahead and load them right here. So they're automatically linked to your program. No searching for them. You need to print out your leases for tenants. You can do it at the click of a button. Again, trying to make it as easy as possible for everyone. Your owners, obviously there's the information everyone's going to have for an owner. When you're adding them, you'll notice up here all of the different, not only account codes, but profiles will have an ID and a long description. This is set up however you want to, however you choose to. In our case, we use the last name of the owner and then the full name under full description. And that will also, not only this will carry down to the address, but also for units, the address, the full address will carry down as well to save you some time. Email addresses, phone numbers, even informal and formal salutations if you want to. Taxpayer names in the hidden field, taxpayer IDs. Kind of need those for the 1099s. Upload Manager is part of our Promas Central package, which allows you to upload documents to the web for owners, tenants, vendors to be able to extract them off of your website and the online portals. Oh, looks like we have a question here. Let me see. Can you enlarge the screen? I will pop this open as much as I can. If you have a window on your side that this is showing in, you may have a one of the maximize buttons on yours as well. I don't know if that's really gonna help. That just creates a larger view here. It's not really changing the size of the text, so that's really as it gets on here. You might want to adjust your the size of your screen just from your desktop. Just right-click in your properties to see if you can make your screen larger. The second tab here you see is part-time address. You don't have to keep sticky notes and extra Excel databases or Excel sheets next to your computer with this program, because we'll track your owners where they're at any time. If you have a schedule when you know they're going to be out of town, you can put it in here with that address. So automatically anything that's going to get mailed, or if you need to call them, that information's here. And it's automatically has a beginning and an end date, so you don't have to track that as well. When you get to March 31st, 2013 and publish a statement for April 2nd or April 3rd, it's going to go to the full-time address. On your checks and statements, you see these have some of your controls for your owners and their money. The statement, what type of statement they would get. Is it one owner to one unit, or are they a multiple unit owner? If there's a tax rate that's applicable. Over here is your publishing information. With Promas Central, you have the option not to publish to paper. And you also have this button here, which is very important. It doesn't seem like it would be, but do not publish to internet. We actually have customers that didn't even tell some of their owners that they were going online with online statements and that sort of thing, because they were the owners that wanted that paper in hand. They don't want anything to do with the internet, that newfangled stuff, and that's okay. Promise Central allows you to do that. So you can keep on chugging away with those paper statements for those few owners that want that. Down here in the check writing, here's your controls to on your distribution reserves. You can set a base reserve and enforce that reserve if you and your owners decide that there is going to be an absolute base where the ledger cannot fall below. So when you're writing checks on that owner's ledger, that it's not going to put them in a negative balance. The distribution reserve is what's held back from the distribution check each month. And also you can set a minimum and a maximum distribution. Maximums usually aren't used because the owners want as much money as they possibly can, but they may not want small checks. That's where the minimum distribution comes in handy. When you're setting up a new owner, you can sit them right next to you in Promise or just ask them the questions over the phone. Would you like to, how small a check would you like us to send if you don't have any activity? And this doesn't mean it won't print the check. It's gonna ask you not to print the check, and I'll show you how that's important here in a bit. But these were all controls for you to be able to work the system. Again, on the categories, this is where you can set up those different categories to put alerts out there for you. When we get to units, we're going to go ahead and set it up for one of the units that belongs to an owner, and we'll try to open a work order for that particular owner when we get to work orders or maintenance over here. And again, you get your documentation. In fact, looks like this guy has already got he's got an ad or some type of document in here. We're going to open it and see what it gives us. I think we loaded this last time we were here. It might take just a second. It will upload most any files. This one happens to be a PDF. There we go. And at this point, you can go ahead and print it. You can email it if you need to email it to your tenant, your owner, but it's sitting out there waiting for you when you need it at your fingertips. All right. That covers our owners. Let me see. Properties are not typically used. They are used when you have apartments or even a house that are owned by multiple owners that will have different shares of the distribution. It takes care of that math for you. For example, I slid off the wrong button. We have one property set up here, Newzig, and there happens to be 5 owners of Newzig. And these 5 owners each have a 20% share. So when it gets at the end of the month, you are going to have all that math done for you. You don't have to sit there and manually calculate. And again, you have your different accounting information that you would set up for that property. You may have 1 or 2 of those. We don't see a whole lot of them, but we're ready for it if you have them. Units are the main staple of the program or of the way we work. The units is your unit, your apartment, whatever location it is. Again, the IDs. We chose to use the name of the street, just the name of the street and the house number, and then the long description over here. You set up the description, show who owns it, what type of unit it is, and its unit type here. We have single-family residence, but keep in mind, Promise isn't just for your single-family houses or dwellings. You can actually, and we do have customers that set it up for parking spaces. We have customers that are in metropolitan areas where there are folks nearby that would like to commute, or not nearby that need to commute, so they'll lease parking spaces to them and make a little money on the side. Promise will help you track that as well. Management fee. If there's a manager, Promise will handle account managers, or some people call them agents, managers, for particular owners. whichever way you call it, what that rent is on the location, of course the address, and the fee summary. This will tell you at a glance what you can expect each month if, in fact, there's rent collected, $96.50, it's 10%, and when vacant. And remember, you have the option to set a vacant charge if you are not with tenant right now. The reason for that is there are many property management companies that are working extra hard when that unit is unoccupied because they're trying to get it occupied again. They want to charge for that. And again, the categories and documentation, those are standard. Now in the categories, let me see, we're going to create, we're going to tag this thing with that category we made earlier. And category is going to be, oh, that was an existing category. We're going to create a new one. Let me see. Close. All right. Well, we already have a maintenance one. We're going to create a notify category. And that's all we need to do on this. Notify owner of all repairs. Now we're tagging this to a particular unit, but we can also tag this category to a owner as well if we want all of their units to display that when we do a work order. And again, the documentation, we'll see how that works in a bit. Now we're still in the unit profile. Notice we have the upload manager here for Promas Central. We also have a tab here for inspections. Now I won't click that because it takes a little bit of time to pull it up in a shared environment, but our landlord inspection program is a do-it-yourself inspection program where you can customize the inspection as you go along for your individual properties. Some properties have 2 bedrooms, some have 3, some have 1. We want to give you the opportunity to do that first inspection, walk through, customize it the way you want. So the next time you go there, it's much quicker to walk through because it's already there, set up the way you would walk the grounds. And basically, the way it works is you would create a repository along with your database. So all of those inspections, when your inspectors come back or your agents come back from the field, they're placed inside the repository for you to get and inside Promas. There's a host of reports that you can print, embed pictures. It can be run on tablets through a remote desktop, but the best platform for this program, the inspection program, is an ultra mobile PC, which would actually be where you would load the program on. That would work best. If you want to learn more about that, please feel free to ask me. I'll be reaching out over the next couple of days to everyone and see what you thought of the program, of course, and see if there's something we can do for you to get you on the road to success. We're going to save those changes. Real quick, you got the tenant. Tenant, very simple. You're going to have all the basic information there. You're going to have the responsible tenant if you want to link multiple tenants to the unit, but make one responsible. This is the person that you're going to go after. Go after for the money. Put them in there. Yep. And also legal tenants. You can load those in there. What email address to use. You can automatically move them to a different unit if they're gonna maintain underneath your purview. You have their lease charges, all those things that you set up earlier. Under the defaults will come in here. You check their lease dates, when they start, when they end. Rent changes, you can do those. You can do rent changes a couple different ways. You can do them singly, like on these tabs, or under your accounts receivable. You can also do a global rent increase based on either flat rate, percentage, and the timing you can adjust as well to either on the annual lease date or on a certain date for individuals. Whatever recurring charges there are, you can put those in here. And you notice over here on the side you have some speed buttons where you can see for this individual, you can check out their tenant history, their tenant receipts. You can create a charge for a tenant. Say, for example, you have burn holes in the carpet. You can, oh, must be another tenant. You can charge a tenant for that, for the burn holes one time. You can set up their tenant letters, notes, which is also nice. You can use notes in order to print out on their tenant receipt, tenant letters, and commercial lease not normally used with your tenants. So I'll skip over that one real quick. You see, again, they have categories and the documentation. Documentation, great place to put that lease paperwork, and the upload manager to go ahead and upload that lease paperwork into their portal if you have Promas Central. We're not going to save his changes. We'll skip over cross-reference really quick just so you can look at vendor. I'm not going to look at the rest of them because they're very simple. It's just basic tagging. But when we get to a vendors, you have a few things in here that you can do. Obviously all the basic information, but you're able to oh, there you go. I lost everybody there for a second. Hopefully you didn't lose me. You can track what time, when their liability, workers' comp, liability insurance expires. You have the documentation tab, of course, to load those documents in, and keeps them honest. So when it comes up, you can let them know that, hey, we need a new COI or certificate of insurance. Pony up. You can put your discounts in there that will automatically be taken if they're in the correct amount of time. For example, this guy's got a 2% for 10 days. So from the time the invoice hits, if you're paying that check out, then it's going to take that automatic discount for you. Again, categories, documentation. The cross-reference, and that's the last part we'll go over under this, and then we'll move on to a typical month. When you're sitting there with 500 customers or 500 tenants, and one of them walks in and says, I need to get word to the owner, and you pull them up, it's Johnny Parsons. Well, when you hit Johnny Parsons, it's going to give you all the information linked to Johnny Parsons. Well, you can see that Johnny lives in that property, which is owned by these 5 individuals. He lives in this particular unit, WB202, of 2 units. And here he is. And looks like he's living there with Mr. Spots. Now, anytime that you want to, you can go ahead and open up any one of these just by double-clicking. It'll bring you right into that particular profile, so you can look around inside it. So it's nice. It's a nice thing to be able to have, and you can cross-reference by property, by owner, by unit, by tenant. Now, for a typical month, again, some of you might be new to not only Promas, but maybe property management and accounting, the accounting process that go with it. We've got that covered as well. We ask any of our new users to go into this file and print it and put it next to your computer that you're running Promas on. That way it will kind of give you an overview as you're going along. What are the steps that a typical property management month has, from charging the tenant's rent, paying invoices, closing out the month, and even end of year processing. And there's more detailed documents as you drill down that are set up in blue. For example, end of month processing. There's an audit procedure in our how-to documents. You can do self-audits, and also for a nominal fee, we will provide a desktop audit, which will provide you a report of things that we found that you provide to your accountant. Have them review and see if we were right, and might keep you out of hot water. So it's another benefit of going with our software and using it. Scheduling rents is easy as going to schedule receivables, figuring out when you're, say it's 10/1, that's your rent date. You choose it, you compile it, and much like printing checks, you also have a review stage prior to posting anything. In this case, you can see we didn't charge rent last month, so it wants us to charge 2 months of rent. This is a demonstration database, so that doesn't surprise me. Why would you want to skip a rent? Maybe it's a graduation present from the tenant's dad, who happens to be the owner, or mom. You can skip it, and when you post, that won't show up on that particular tenant's payables. You can also do your recurring charges, your late fees, same. For example, Joe Bruno, he has to pay trash removal each month, and we haven't charged him the last 2 months. So there's your accounts receivable. As far as getting those receivables out there for pay. Tenant receipts for taking in the money. You can either do it by one-on-one. We have check readers that are available if you chose to go that way, which will tag the check on the reader to each individual tenant as you go along. First time, it identifies it by you being in the tenant's page, and the next time, so long as you're using that same check number and account number, it will automatically post, and all you have to do is put in the amount. So anytime you go to the tenant, pick up any tenant, it'll show you in the payment what's due. It'll show you what those items are, and say he brought it in just for $1,450. He's not paying this $520.97 right now. You can skip that and then put in the amount that he does have and post it, and it'll keep that running balance for him as you go along. You also have a couple of different options to handle overpayment of rent, which is often a heartache for some property managers. You can handle it one of two ways. You can handle it as an advance payment to the owner, which is not the best way to do it, I think. If you have a military member that's deploying for 6 months or a year and gives you a very large check for 12 months of rent, better to do an open credit. And that way what would happen is each month when you charge rent against it, that amount of rent will be taken away from that open credit, but we'll keep that money in your coffers as a management group and not dole it out to the owner all at one time. There's no need to write a check back to your owners immediately. It's taken care of for you. But again, choices. They're all choices. Ledger receipts for doing anything from setting your first balances up or doing adjustments. You see your deposits, prorating your rent, charge tenant. All these functions in here allow you to do anything that you need to do, even to handle your tenant move out, which will allow you to take that money back from the escrow over to your checking account inside Promas, and then write that check out against that security deposit, and hold back if you need to. Batch tenant receipts, that's used for if you have a service like PayLease or even Hero PM that provides a payment service for your tenants, that you can download those batches and be able to apply them to Promas. When we go to AP, I'll go to the basics here, and we all know what that very big basic is, the distribution checks, just to show you how the controls work inside Promas with those checks and statements that we looked at before. We're going to compile what our distribution checks or what Promas believes our distribution check should be at right now. And you'll see it automatically wants us to skip 2 checks. Well, let's take a look why and to see how what safeguards are in for you. Well, when you open it up with a single click, it'll show you that that balance for this particular owner or owners is 501.75. We set them up with a base reserve of 200, which gives us an available balance for that distribution check of 301.75. Well, that's great. Why does it want us to skip it? Because that owner also has a minimum distribution amount of 500, which is basically saying, unless there's $500 to send me, keep it and send it out. Send it out when it's at least $500. That doesn't mean that it's that you are necessarily going to skip that check. You could get a call from him that morning and find out that the kid needs his student union eating card or cafeteria card reloaded. Send me the check, even though it's not $500. You can unskip that and send it. It'll also protect you in cases where you have multiple payables over the available balance. For example, this balance, $28.66, a reserve of $250. There's plenty available for distribution. Unfortunately, there's a total payable amount of $27.50 sitting out there. So Promas doesn't want you to pay. You've talked to the owner. He's going in to make a distribution today of $3,000 so he can get the work orders done. You can go and unskip the check and then post. Okay. Let's take a look real quick over here at maintenance. The maintenance module is part of the fully licensed software package, and it really works for you twofold. It's not only for tracking work orders from cradle to grave, but also it's a nice selling point for you with your owners that you're trying to woo on board to let them know that their assets, those appliances, those high dollar items inside the house can be tracked by your software. We'll just take a look here real quick. We have one asset loaded in to give you as an example. It's a refrigerator. And this refrigerator is actually, it's linked to a unit, which was Willowbrook Unit 202. It has the basic information, the serial number, model, and such, but it also has the warranty information and who services that warranty and when it expires. That way, when you go ahead and set up a work order against this for a broken refrigerator, that asset, it will give you notice that, hey, this asset's under warranty, and it's going to allow you to save the day and not spend any money for that owner. And of course, the other part of it, everybody remembers, is for work orders. You got to have work orders. Now we set up that category here earlier, and I'm going to see how that works now. We're going to open up a work order for Oak 2118, and we do that. We're going to get some basic information. If your unit profile shows has a repair limit that's in that particular unit, it's going to come up now. It's going to ask you if you want to copy it to the cost limit, which normally you would, yes. But once I do that, ooh, here's that notice. It's going to tell me to notify the owner of all repairs. Now, this just happens to be linked to this particular unit, but again, you can link it to the owner, so any of that owner's units will come up with this message. You can do this for maintenance. You can use it for receipts for that tenant that likes to bouncy checks on you. It's happened twice. You don't want to have it happen the third time. You can set up a category which keys off a receipt as an alert. So you do a tenant receipt and pop up that particular tenant's name. It's going to tell you cash or money order only. It's going to keep anybody that's sitting at that desk from having to remember, go into another database, an Excel spreadsheet, or the like, to have to remember. It's going to be automatically there. The other part of the work order, obviously you've got the basic information, what kind of priority. Obviously flooded basement is an emergency. You set those based on whatever your SOP is for your business, when it was reported, who reported it, their phone number, and then the information that links to that, what's the location, and the problem description. And you also can have the insert time and user initials. So whatever you put in here for information, you can just click that button if you want to keep track along the way of what you're doing with that particular, or what's wrong with that unit. Or if you're adding additional notes, add note, go ahead and insert. So you're keeping a running track of things as you go along. Vendor assignment. This is a nice feature here for you. You assign the vendor that's going to do the work for you, and you can track it all the way from the beginning to the end. But here's your negotiating time. You see that you have a number of jobs done by a particular vendor that are below average, and you can put the information in here. Heck, you can go into their profile and upload the pictures of that that below average work. Perfect time to also go into their profile to negotiate that discount, or have them give you a credit. Issue me a credit invoice for however many dollars. So you have that ability here too. And of course, you probably have a whole bunch of vendors out there for some of your larger property management companies, because the owner comes over with their favorite vendor, and you might have yours. Well, they have theirs as well, and you're going to use theirs. Reports and mailings. There's been a change in this new version 12. There are some folks on the call, I believe one of ours from Magnolia there. Mary, I think you're from Magnolia, if I'm correct. Yeah. Version 6 had over 240 reports available. We have many reports available in version 12, but we've changed things. The old Crystal report is now a customizable report writer. So when you go and print a report, you get a couple of different options. You can open and run what's available already with these fields, and I just ran one as an example. Again, it might take a second because this is a shared environment, and it'll come up and do a preview. That's the canned report. The nice thing about this now that we didn't have in the old version is you can take that report and modify it. And here's all your fields over here to the left that you can modify. And as you're going, you can add them. You can see they come up over here as you go. Those will pop. And then you go ahead and modify, save it, and you have a new report set up for you. Now, this actually came in handy a couple weeks ago. One of our customers transferred to version 12 and got yelled at by the owner. One of the owners wanted a report with all their units and the tenants listed on it, and wanted their name listed by each of the fields or each of the records, even though the report was just their people. We were able to do that for them. So yes, we cater to egos too. We can do that too. So there's your reports. Number of different things that you can do, from even a key report. I don't know if you notice under unit profiles, but if you have a locksmith that uses key codes, you can even keep those stored in here under the unit to maintain copies of them. And we have a key report that you can hand over to your locksmith if or pull up that key code if someone gets locked out. Let's take a look real quick at owner statements. Remember, we did the setup from the owner statements earlier. Take a look at those. We're just going to run one so you can see what a basic owner statement would look like. Now, you can include your inactive owners, and the profiles for your owners, you'll either set them up as active, inactive, or no posting if you're not going to have any posting done on them. In the statement note. And it's nice to have this include inactive owners, because maybe you have an opportunity to go and woo somebody back. Say you were a 12% management fee company, a couple of owners walked because they found the 11% owner fee company down the street, and you've decided that you're going head-to-head with them, and you're going to be a 10%. New fee structure, 10%. Now, whatever you print out for your statements will now be on every one of the statements. Run it. You have a couple abilities here. Your date range. You can restrict to a separate a particular owner, or restrict to any of these groups, including a profile list. Remember, we talked about the profile list before. If you had a certain group of owners that you had, maybe they all have houses that need to have lead-based paint checks on a regular basis, you can create that type of list. So there's just different ways that you can restrict how you print these out. We're going to go ahead and preview. We've got it running from September 1st to today. It takes a second to process the owner records. And here you go. Very basic, information. You've got your return address, your mailing address, the details. And you see over here on this one for Fred Clayton, you've got unpaid bills, you've got pending maintenance, and this shows a breakdown of the unit, the lease expirations down here. More importantly, I believe I have one down here that has some pending maintenance that could be pretty important coming up. It's for a furnace. There we go. Pending maintenance, $2,750. This was reported July 15th. Well, now it's October 10th, and it gets to be January. Pretty sure in January you're not going to have a $2,700 furnace. You're in the peak of season. Now it is a $4,000 furnace, and the owner's going to jump up and down and scream and holler, and then you're going to pull up the old statements, whether it's printed or if it's up on the web portals, that you've been telling them all along that needs to be repaired. So protect yourself. Extra information. Pop out of those. Again, you have your tenant statements. Much more basic because you're dealing with rent, schedule payables, and the payment of those. This is the tenant letters. You also have a number of different letters that you can create and choose from when you're doing say your delinquency letters and that sort of thing. There's only 4 in here now. You can create as many as you want. You can create mail merges inside Promas. There's spell check inside Promas. A whole bunch of different controls. The mailing for the tenant letters, to go over that real quick. Tenant statements. I've done that twice. There's a difference between a letter and a statement. Your tenant statement is that which you put in at the end of the month. Again, for this, you can go ahead and put something like change your batteries in there. If it's during daylight savings time, change your batteries in the smoke detectors, whatever you want to go out to all of your tenants, whether it's published or printed, that same message will be there for everyone. Voila. There you go. Again, these are basic, but you have the ability to change them around. This area up here, it's not loaded on mine, but you also have a large area up here to put additional information. At some point, we'll be setting it up so you can also bring in your PDF or your JPEG files, so you can have your company logo on there if you have one. Some companies do, some don't. But you can put your web address and different information. Let me see. Real quick on internet publishing, we mentioned Promas Central. Promas Central and Hero PM. Promas and Hero have a relationship where they power the online portals that would be on your website in order for you to publish your statements for owners up on the web. Also to take payments from owners that are making contributions online. And you also have the ability to take payments from tenants online. I'm going to show you real quick how this works. Going to our server control panel just to show you what your owner, a typical owner, would see inside your portals that you would put up on your websites. Now, it's not required that you use all your portals. You don't need to have tenant portals if you don't want them. You can have just an owner portal if you so choose to do that. It's really up to you. It's all customizable. Log in here real quick. I am actually now on the Hero PM website because Promas is a on-premises software. Hero provides us the wings to get up to the cloud. So this is what we call our hybrid cloud. Now that I am in, I have a practice database here. There's a couple of different things. Some of you may already be Hero customers. And I'll pop over here real quick. If this looks familiar to you, then you probably are a Hero customer. You're not required to be a Hero customer per se if you use Promas Central. There are two levels. There are two levels inside Hero, though, that if you already are a customer, then you already have Promas Central accessible to you. If you are just choosing Promas Central through our software, you would have this portion of their program accessible, the RP management systems. This would be considered the bronze package with Hero. With the platinum package, you have not only RP management available to you, but all the services available that Hero PM has. And it's not unit-based. It is purely based on a monthly charge. And they do everything from website hosting to advertising your vacancies to dozens of websites. And you would be able to, with Promas Central, do everything from take payments again to receive online applications as well from prospective tenants. Pop back over to Promas Central. I think it brought me over here. Here we go. To just show you what an owner would see just as a quick pop-up. You see this RP Management tab. Promas Central is what you would get access to, as well as configuration if you're a Promas Central customer only, Promas customer using Promas Central. I'm going to look up owners. And I'm going to do a quick search for, I know his first name is Mark. So I'm going to go ahead and do that search. I got 5 results. Ah, that's him. This guy right here. IMSE, Monasur, and Mark Emineth. Over here on, trying to move my webinar. Over here on the right, you can see a few things. The star means that they're active. That middle icon tells you that this will show you what they see. And that's what we're interested in right now, just so you get an idea what your owners would expect. See if that would be something that they would like. When they open up, they'll have their welcome page, and this can be changed from month to month. Or you can keep it the same. You can put special messages in there for your owners each month. It's up to you. You have an activity tab, which will show you any activity, and they can search activity on their account using date buffers. In documents, this is what you've uploaded into Promas Central for them to go into. In this case, this is a training database, so there's not a lot, but just to give you an idea, we uploaded a work order So if we clicked on that, it would open up the work order, and you can print it. Just look at it, review it. Is its ledger's getting low? You can set it up so they can do an automatic payment. You just have to make sure both sides that you're recording it in process. And contact. Your owner wants to contact the PM group. You would set up who that would go to. And the same thing goes with the tenants. The tenants as well. When it comes to repairs or work orders, you will stipulate who those repair orders would go to in order for you to track those. So that is the basics, the very basics of Promas Central. In the interest of time. Again, if you were a Promas customer, a Hero customer, you would have also the access to RP listings, which would be your rental property listings and advertising, vacation listings if you have vacation listings, and the rest of the tabs there. For our purposes, I'm going to go ahead and exit out. It's starting to work very slowly because it's a shared environment. And go back to the program real quick. And I'm going to log off here. When you're thinking about how to get those documents up, remember the upload manager, and to show one more time on those owner statements, you have an option to publish, mail, or preview. Normally everybody previews them at first and then runs the reports again to do it, just to make sure everything's correct. There might be some journal entries need to be made, that sort of thing. And then if you publish, the first time you publish in Promas Central, you are creating, much like a direct deposit, you're creating that account for the next time when the actual documents will go up into the portals.